If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, as well as follow me and subscribe to me on all my other social media platforms. What's up, Thrashers, and welcome back once again to the Thrash Maniac 99 YouTube channel, and I am finally back after taking most of this week off because I was on vacation in Toledo. Got a lot of stuff to talk about on a future stream about that trip, and lots of collection update videos are going to be coming over the next couple of months. So with all that said, let's get into this review. So we got a big weekend of some really cool releases, and I figured why don't we kick off with probably the biggest one out of the bunch, and that is the latest studio offering from Baroness, Stone. So this came out on September 15th, and, well, full disclosure, I have never listened to a full Baroness album before now. I don't know why, again, whenever a guy like me who has his wheelhouse of genres, whether it be in thrash, death, prog, classic metal, extreme metal, there's going to be a lot of bands I'm going to miss out on. And Baroness has always been kind of one of those bands that has always escaped me. Because, granted, you know, there's just so much out there to check out. I'm going to end up missing some pretty big ones, even if I already knew about their existence. I mean, of course I knew who Baroness was, just never really dove head on into them. But when I saw that they had a new album coming out, it's like, okay, this might be a good time to check them out. So we kick things off with Embers, which was just this acoustic intro, but it was pretty. But then you get into the true opening track, Last Word. Sweet drum intro into like a galloping riff, but it's got some low end to it. And then it transitions nicely into a soothing melody. And of course, this whole album, I could almost think, am I listening to like Mastodon to some degree? After all, Baroness and Mastodon are both Georgia bands, and Baroness have been around a little bit less than Mastodon. So of course, as a stupid biker just goes right by my house with total reckless abandon. Anyways, so of course Baroness has always been compared to Mastodon, especially to the hardcore fans, and I can definitely see why. There are certain riffs and melodies, and even like dissonant melodies, I hear all across this album that would make me think of Mastodon, and it starts right here with Last Word. But also, what I really liked about this song, and really the whole album, the mix. Like, when it comes down to the production, it's like, yeah, I do wish the guitars could have been a little bit heavier, but I understand that, like, Baroness have kind of become more of a prog band with some elements of sludge from their old era, at least from what I know about them. But when it comes down to the mix, the bass does shine, and Last Word, you get a really cool bass line that I absolutely loved and appreciated. Beneath the Rose starts off with this like descending riff, while the other instruments are getting a little bit kind of jammy a little bit, but then you get like this big heavy riff, and there are a few moments, I don't know why I keep slipping, there are moments on this album where you get these like big crescendos into heavy riffs, and again, bringing out more of that like sludgy kind of Mastodon vibe. But yeah, big riff coming in on Beneath the Rose, but then you get lots of dissonant melodies, oh plenty. And the dissonant melodies, of course, is a good trademark of a band like Mastodon, and also a band like Baroness, where you get these like little dissonant melodies in the background of the riffs to kind of add more to the overall atmosphere. I also really like how on this track you get some like spoken word, but you get some like chug-along riffage going on, like dun 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 dun. My best impression of a chug-along, which is probably pretty horrendous, so let's just pretend that didn't happen and move on. Although the one thing that kind of took me out of this song a little bit, there would be some like odd vocal approaches from John on here, but then once the chorus comes in, the vocals become better defined. And then kind of out of nowhere at the end, you get this like tremolo melody and blast beat that almost felt a bit black metal-ish, but like more of the melodic kind, but done in Baroness's way. But of course, it just ends abruptly, which gonna take some points off because of that. I don't like when songs just end abruptly without any kind of burn or like fading out. Choir, this song is pretty cool, especially with how it starts with the galloping guitars and the rhythm. Almost surf rock-esque. Like, I almost started to think of like Dick Dale or somebody like that, but done with more melody. And there's some tasteful guitar melodies on this track. And then you get more spoken word and, dare I say, shouts with the vocals. And then at the end, the drum tones kind of almost become a bit industrialized, which I thought was kind of strange. Then it goes into the dirge, which is this more melodic acoustic interlude. And then it leads into Anodyne, which big, massive riff, heavy, chunky bastard of a riff. And this is probably the most rockin' tune of the album. And then this, as well as Choir, or no, not Choir, Beneath the Rose, brings me to the leads. Like, the lead work on this album, for the most part, these leads are harmonized. And that's because you also got co-lead vocalist Gina, who also does guitars, and she and John harmonize so well, not just on the guitars, but even in the vocals. Because there are lots of duet moments that happen between the two across the board on this album. But then we get into the song Shine. Really, these next 3 tracks, Shine, Magnolia, and Under the Wheel, these are the more somber songs. At least there are somber parts to these 3 tracks, especially with how they start. Like Shine, you get this like somber acoustic and clean guitar play with tasteful keyboards. Gives it an old school prog vibe, kind of like King Crimson's In the Court of the Crimson King. But then you get this galloping riff and D-beat just seemingly out of nowhere. Big chorus, even a nice dynamic shift, almost post-metal-ish, where it goes from this like atmospheric lead into a soothing, clean guitar section that felt a bit psychedelic, a little bit trippy. And then Magnolia, ocean sounds and faint, clean guitars, before you get these somber acoustic guitars and somber vocal harmonies between John and Gina. But then you get this like huge triplet riff, once again feeling like Mastodon, which Mastodon are kings of doing like heavy, chuggy triplet riffage within like prog or sludge. And then Under the Wheel, this track was probably the most doom-laden track, because it starts off with this like melancholic violin, bass line, faint guitars, crooning vocals to keep the mood as somber as you can, and then the dynamics start to shift where it goes from being really soft, and then you get some punchy, sludgy riffs, just kind of out of nowhere. And then the final track, Bloom, classical guitars, made me think of Opeth whenever you hear Opeth get on them more classical patterns on the guitars. And then, again, more soothing vocal harmonies with John and Gina. And even some, like, tuneful, clean guitars towards the end. It was, like, the softest track of the album. And it was a beautiful way to end it. So, as far as any complaints, again, Beneath the Rose kind of ends abruptly. And even in Beneath the Rose, there was, like, this one odd vocal pattern that kind of took me out of the song a little bit. And then, of course, when it came down to the heavier moments, I do wish the guitar tone could have been a little bit chunkified to really, like, amp up, like, oh, yeah, this is some heavy fucking shit. But blah. Why do I keep stumbling? But from what we got, it was still good, nonetheless. Like I said, mix is really solid, the bass is prominent, and probably my favorite things about the album as a whole are the leads and the duetting vocal harmonies. Like, they were done tastefully well. So for my first time checking out Baroness, I enjoyed this for the most part. I'm going to give this one 8.5 out of 10. Definitely need to go back to the early stuff and get more into Baroness, because I can now understand why a lot of people love this band. They know how to write some heavy parts, soft parts, and have great vocal harmonies, especially nowadays. But yeah, 8.5 out of 10. And of course, that's all just my opinion. What did you guys think of Stone by Baroness? Let me know in the comments below. And until next time, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.